Hey everybody, this is Lance Dunahoe. Welcome to DFW's Real Estate Best Real Producers Live. This week we have some amazing guests. We have an insurance agent broker that has one of the most successful insurance companies in DFW, and we have his guest who is one of the most influential real estate agents and probably the best connector I have ever met. So if you want to hear their stories, how they got to be where they are today and what motivates and inspires them, then tune in right now. All right, welcome to DFW's Real Estate Best Real Producers Live. We're coming to you live every Wednesday at this time from your favorite platforms. We've got Facebook Live, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, your favorite platforms. So you can find us here every Wednesday. And today we have a great show. But before we get started, I want to just do a quick and very special dedication to somebody we lost today that is an extremely influential person in real estate. And it's Mr. Dave Jinks. He is one of the co-authors of probably what's known as the Real Estate Bible, MREA, along with Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. He is the architect behind many of the training programs that made Keller Williams one of the #1 training companies in the world. And also behind the training program for Master Networks that it has touched so many businesses' lives across the country. And just real quick, I want to read what Gary Keller says about Dave Jinks in writing this book. Dave's exceptional ability to express the complex ideas in a simple, memorable way proved as invaluable to our efforts as his extensive experience in the real estate business and his gift for finding the truth in the numbers. The systems that he created really have become the foundation for so many of the successful agents that we meet with. And we just want to take a moment to acknowledge a great loss in our business today. So rest in peace, Dave, and we just wish your family the best. So again, we have a great show, and I'm so excited to be bringing some great guests to you. But before we get started, our podcast, of course, is powered by The Difference live stream podcast, which provides video branding and digital business development solutions for small business owners and entrepreneurs locally and statewide. With over 600,000 viewers in 2020 and growing, The Difference can help any business grow their brand awareness and develop a message that humanizes your business in a way that grows your brand, expands your connections and relationships, increases your influence and relevance, and quickly helps you become known as a power player and a mover and shaker in your sphere, community, industry, and business world. So that's we're going to hear more about that from Lyndon Wilson, who is operating things in the background. He always comes on and has some great questions and some insights from our guest. So we're looking forward to that. Real quick, a little background on Real Producer for those of you who are joining us for the first time. Real Producer, of course, is a magazine. There are 3 versions of Real Producer in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I'm the co-owner of Tarrant Real Producer magazine. This is our September issue. And my partner, Jordan Espeseth, he's the owner of Dallas and North DFW Real Producer magazine, which goes out to the top 500 agents in those different territories. So it is the tip of the spear, right? The people that are doing the majority of the business that are making things happen, and they are the audience for our publication. However, it's provided to them for free by our partners. Our advertising partners are vetted by top agents. In other words, we meet with top agents and they tell us about the businesses that they work with and who they love. And those people get invited to be a partner in Real Producer magazine. So it's really this vetted group of the best agents and the businesses that they work with. And there's just this great integrity about this community that has been created in Real Producer. So we're so excited to bring these people together. And this community is so powerful because when you have the best businesses and the agents working together, there's so much collaboration. And really, this is about raising the standards for all of us in our business and helping our clients. And today, 2 of our guests, I think, are some of the best examples of that. Our first guest, one of the one of the most successful insurance agency owners that I've known, but also just a heck of a cool, nice guy. And that's Mr. Duran Jenkins with Duran Jenkins Agency. Duran, can you come on a minute? Welcome.
Good morning, Lance.
Hey, man. Good to see you, Duran. And Sharon with Duran.
How are we today?
We're doing great, man. It's so good to see you. And you brought a guest that you and I know very well and love.
Absolutely.
One of the most successful realtors that I've ever met, and one of the most interesting people I've ever met, like you probably could agree, but also I would say the greatest connector that I have ever met. Just his way of matchmaking and putting people together and kind of expanding his sphere is pretty amazing, wouldn't you say?
I would definitely agree with that. Mr. Kidwell, who's about to come on, he is somebody who a lot of times you go to introduce him to somebody and he's already met them and he already knows them because it seems like everybody knows Russ Kidwell. Yep. And if Russ Kidwell doesn't know somebody, he makes a point to go meet that person and make sure he does connect with them, and so he can connect them to somebody else down the road. So he's always on board and ready to go.
Yeah. Russ Kidwell, are you there?
I'm here. Morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Great.
Good, sir.
Where are you? You look like you're that doesn't look like your fancy abode here in the DFW Metroplex. Where are you?
I am in Broken Bow, Oklahoma.
Wow.
Yeah, my family does a cabin once a year, late September, early October. Siblings and I get together and bring up one of the parents. We try to keep them separated as much as possible. This year it's the mom, and we're having a good time.
Oh, right on.
Are they like studio audience with you right now?
Is the studio audience? They're upstairs in the loft.
Okay.
Wow. Well, thanks for taking some time out from family.
Thank you, guys.
For us, man. It's always good to see you. So real quick, I want to give you guys a chance to tell a little bit about yourselves, and I've got a few questions. So Duran, where are you from? How'd you get here? Who are you, man? What do you do?
How far back do you want to go? I mean,
well, I've got some questions to go back. But, start with we're here and now. Where are you now?
Right now, I'm in Colleyville, Texas, in my office here right next to Heritage High School, and we're lucky we did this at 11 because we did this in the morning or in the evening. Then we have live band music that plays during football season for about 3 hours. So all you hear is dun, 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 and they start their next song. And so it's kind of constant. So right now we got a little lull and quiet spell.
Wow. You've got kind of a view of the back door where all the kids skip out class, right, and come smoke cigarettes behind the building or something, don't you?
Yeah, I've got a little entryway over here. I got to run them out of every once in a while because it's like a little back door inset. So you can't, if you're inside there, you can't see the school. And so I'll find kids sitting there in the mornings and hanging out. And as long as they're not smoking cigarettes, I'm fine with it. I just don't want any cigarette smoke blowing in my office. But for the most part, they leave us alone.
Yeah, that's great. Russ, how about you, man? Where are you now? What are you doing these days?
Well, I'm enjoying this real estate market. I know a lot of people keep saying it's just such a seller's market. It's so unstable. The buyers, it's not fair. Great thing about real estate, there's always a buyer, there's always a seller, and you have to figure out a way you can make things work for both sides of a transaction. It's great times right now as far as real estate's concerned. Having a great time dealing with commercial and residential. And as you guys know, I love my little dabbling in farm and ranch, finding my rattlesnakes, playing with my wildlife as much as possible too.
Yeah. You're with KW Southlake, is that correct?
That is correct. The big office there in Southlake.
Yeah, that is a big one. Well, Real Producers is all about connections and relationships, top agents and the business they work with. So how did you guys connect? How did you first meet and develop this beautiful relationship?
You pointing to me, Russ?
I did, sir.
So I been an agent, appointed agent for about 5 years, and roughly about 3.5 years ago, I took over this office here in Colleyville. And Russ is one of the first people that I met because it was one of the first events I did. As you can tell, Russ and I get our hair done by the same person. And so we're actually both. I think actually I was sponsoring the event. I think Russ was there he was training a bunch of new agents from his former stint, and we met at that what was it? It was one of the men's hair places over in Colleyville off 26. And he and I started. I did a quick little presentation on insurance and how I could help out the new agents that were coming through their office. And then we kind of chatted it up and just kind of took a liking to each other. And so we started doing more things together and different events and seeing each other just kind of around town, and just slowly became friends. And now we see each other on a regular basis. And if we don't see each other, kind of calls like, "Hey, hadn't seen you in a minute. How's everything going?"
Right.
That
was a great event. That was at one of my former stints, and I do tend to like to be little bits of everywhere lots of the time. There's so many opportunities to do things that are traditional, and I like kind of breaking out of the mold and doing things a little different. So yeah, I'd actually put that event together, Duran. I don't know if you remember or not. It was a chance for guys to get massage and manicures and pedicures and get shaved and get a haircut and do a CE course, which traditionally guys don't usually get those opportunities. So it was a fun time, and it was a great time to network and put people together. And that's what I like to do.
Yeah,
it obviously worked well.
Yeah, Russ, as I mentioned, RP is all about connections, and I don't know anybody that does it better than you. And in fact, a mutual friend of ours, Mr. John Israel, Mr. Thank You, didn't he kind of give you the title, the official title?
I was about to say it was 5 years ago, I guess. I was at a convention in New Orleans, a Jared James convention. And at that period of time, it had to have been 5 or 6 years ago, because John was still working for Cutco with the gifts that realtors sometimes give as housewarming gifts. And John was out in the hallway, and we laugh about the fact that he was getting ready to make a decision about a career move. And I had never been around the Jared James group, so that was an interesting time. But we laughed at the end of the 3 days. I think I spent more time in the hallway with John Israel and some of the other people, again, networking, hearing about them, probing, prodding, what's your business doing? How may I help you? And then we reconnected when we got back to the DFW area, and then had the chance. Actually, Lance, I don't know if you remember or not, John had just published the Mr. Thank You Project book. And I had taken that book and basically just devoured it and tried to figure out how I could take being thankful to the next level with my personal business, and did a major thank you project event, and then met with John, and John and I had lunch. And then he called me a few hours later and said, "Hey, I want you to know, after having lunch, I went home and told my wife I'm quitting my job and I'm going out full time. Thank you." And I'm going, "Oh, no. You need to correct this with your wife right now." But introduced you to John and several other people, and it worked into the Colleyville Chamber. And then John ended up doing things through Metrotex and has kind of grown from there. But then John kind of tagged me. He said, "If I'm Mr. Thank You, Russ Kidwell's Mr. Connector." And that's just kind of stuck. So it's a mantle I will gladly wear.
Absolutely. Well, so, you talk about, it started with kind of a gratitude thing, and applying some of those things, and those interactions in the hallway. What do you think? You do this masterfully. What is it? Something you are aware of? You really think about connection, or is it just something that kind of comes to you intuitively? Is there a process or system behind that? But tell us about sort of how you connect people.
There is a process. Years ago, I read a book called Concentric Circles of Concern. And it was a book that talked about the overlaying circles. And you begin with your beginning, your center, and how they overlap, and how this person knows this person. Fortunately or unfortunately, I think my mom had a real problem even when I was growing up. I've always been a little analytical, and everything has to fit into a box so I can pull that drawer and get to it at some point in time. So I know how I met you, Lance Deere, and I know how I met you, and I remember how those two overlap. So when I'm meeting someone, my brain is in overdrive on, okay, I'm hearing all of this about him. Now, how can I connect him with someone else that'll be beneficial to his business? And selfishly, of course, how can I glean from his sphere and overlap our two and make sure that we're all doing something that causes success for each and every one of us? So it's definitely a process, and it's very analytical, but I try to never let on that it's here and make sure it always appears to be here.
Yeah, I think you do a great job of
I
that.
think it does come
Because
from here with you, Russ.
Thank you. Thank you.
it does seem to be driven that way, because the way you connect people is usually at that heart level. But you obviously understand how they can benefit from each other. So you mentioned it probably has had
But
just
let me interject right there, though, Lance. That's why the three of us have all worked together so well, I believe, because all of us seem to be truly people with a heart for the person more than the product and the paycheck at the end of it. So I was excited to be asked to be a part of this podcast today because I think both of you are just awesome individuals. So thank you.
thank you. Well, we can.
Likewise.
I think we can end the show right there. Thank you,
Yeah.
Russ, for being our
See
guest.
you. Bye.
Now, well, so obviously, Duran is, as you mentioned, one of those guys with a big heart that just sort of attracts people and his clients as well. And I think their experience reflects that. Let's talk a little bit about y'all's connection and sort of how you made a difference in each other's life sphere, business, and personally. I'll just open that up to Duran. Go ahead, buddy.
For me, after the first meeting we had with Russ, and we made that acquaintance and that kind of initial meeting there at the salon. After that, I kind of was like a smitten kid and would show up to his place of business and it's like, hey, Russ here? Is Russ here? And I'd go in there and it come to find out he actually didn't go to his office very often, is what I found out. And he was busy out doing real work outside that office. But whenever I was able to catch him and connect with him, it was, have you met so-and-so? Have you met so-and-so? And he would take me around just like a proud little papa and say, hey, have you met him? He's a new kid on the block. Let me introduce you to him. He's here in our area and he's up and coming. Come meet him. And he took me around. And, man, I've probably forgotten more people than I could actually possibly remember that he's introduced me to. It's constant because everywhere you go, people know Russ Kidwell.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing to see that kind of, I mean, Lance, you know him. He's a bit of a suave guy, and so he kind of can go in and work a room. And if you don't watch it, next thing you know, he is full circle, come back around, and it doesn't matter how many people are in the room. He's probably shaking hands with just about every one of them and gotten a tidbit of information. And then Russ somehow manages to remember every little conversation he's had with somebody. It's kind of amazing.
It's dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't take him to Vegas with you when you need that to stay there. He remembers everything.
So our first big Tarrant Real Producer event, of course, Russ was really the inspiration of the location and connecting us with this beautiful, just iconic venue in downtown Fort Worth at the T&P Tavern, the old Texas Pacific Railroad, because of course he knew the owner. And who happened to also be a realtor. But Russ and I ended up down there one day on a little field trip. We took the train, and of course it was just perfect. We might have sampled a few of their house specials. Would you say, Russ?
I will let you say that. Yes.
Yep. And really got a feel for the place and what it could be, and we were inspired by that. And then we had our first Real Producer event there that we had probably 170 people show up to that. And I think Russ probably shook hands with everybody in that room. I mean, it was amazing to see.
I think go back and look at the pictures. It's like just a picture of Russ talking to somebody different about the camera roll.
Yep. I think he is in just about every picture because he was with so many different people. So,
it kind of goes back to, you were talking about John Israel a moment ago and that meeting with the Jared James group there in New Orleans. As realtors, and I know insurance and you, Lance, and what you're doing now with the magazine and Real Producers, and then your previous life, inspections and airline, you and I have overlapped throughout the years, both being East Texas boys too. It comes down to something that I learned at that Jared James conference about trying not to be a celebrity in your own backyard. Start first being real in your own front yard.
Yeah.
So, and if you take the time, Colleyville, Dallas, Fort Worth, we appear to be such a huge mega metropolitan area where people are quickly becoming as fast as all the other metropolitan areas. It's still just people interacting with people. So if you take the time to really get to know, like Duran, you and I, we met at that event. Yeah, I took you around because you had worth, you had personality, and you were just a good guy. So it made sense that when we're out in public, I would introduce you to someone. You guys need to talk. You have a business. Hey, you do commercial insurance, don't you? Lance, you guys are doing inspections now. You really need to meet this guy because he's buying, flipping, building. I think maybe the two of you could interact. It's not always about what happens for me, but when you overlap and build the layers, at some point it all comes around full circle to every one of us. And that's the joy of connecting people. It's not all, it doesn't always have monetary value, but heck, sometimes it sure does too. But being successful is more than just the paycheck.
I think there's a beautiful halo effect to connecting, and it just adds to the richness of your life. And you just mentioned paycheck. I've got a question for you. We can go back. We have some previous history, but I kind of want to go back. Let's go way back, way back, the way back machine. And
like radio voice. Let's take it back to 1981.
That's right. So, but I want to go back to your first W-2 job. Your first job. I'm sure you did other little jobs, but I want to talk about that and how that influences what you do now, if it does at all. I'm going to start with you, Duran.
My first W-2 job, I'm from a small town south of Dallas, a little town called Palmer, Texas. There's like 1,200 people there when I graduated with the 42 other people in my class. So kind of like my first jobs from when I was old enough to drive a truck at like 10 years old until I was like 15, and it was all farming. So everything was paid cash or food, basically, is what you got. But my first W-2, when I learned about taxes and being taxed for the work that you do, I actually worked for a rent-to-own store in one of the towns just south of us, and I think it was like $5.15 an hour back then. It was like minimum wage, and that's what I was making, and maybe got a $5 cash bonus on a Friday. To go enjoy my weekend with. That was kind of my first job, and as a W-2, and as a 17-year-old kid, probably 16, 17 years old when I did that. As far as the lessons that I learned, I learned I didn't want to rent furniture and move furniture for the rest of my life, for sure. And I knew that I was not going to be going into the moving industry. Moving things is something I completely dislike now, and I hate moving. I don't like to help people move either. And I think it all might stem back from those days of picking up somebody's couch on a Friday because they didn't pay their $20 for it. And then now I have to take it back on Monday because I got paid over the weekend. And you just kind of find that even though your body can take it, you just don't want to do that anymore. So I think that's my first W-2 experience. Yeah. And
you learned what you didn't want to do, huh?
Yes, exactly.
How about you, Russ?
Okay, now you said way back, you scared me. I thought we were going to go back to East Texas days. Lance and I both are from East Texas, and we have ties to the Lindale, Mineola, Hawkins area. So growing up over there, especially for the young guys, you did 2 and 3 jobs. It wasn't just one. You would work at a grocery store, at a filling station, full service. You would do something, and then you pretty much knew weekends, after hours, you were going to be cutting hay, baling hay, hauling hay, putting it in a barn, picking blackberries, pruning roses. I mean, you were doing something. I knew at an early age that was not for me. So when I was actually in junior college, I got my full, what I called a corporate job, and it was working for Sears Roebuck and Company at the Broadway Square Mall in Tyler.
Wow.
And Miss Katz was the manager, and she saw something in me at 18 and wanted me to be in the management training program. And you're talking about 5 something an hour? That was 3 something an hour here. And that's when interest rates on a mortgage were 17% and car loans were 20%. So you could work 60 hours a week and not even make a car payment. And I remember early on taking one of those Sears Roebuck time management courses. And the first page said, the man that watches the clock quickly becomes one of the hands. And I'm going, here I am punching a time clock. Of course, I'm watching that clock. This job is not for me. I need to start looking for something entrepreneurial or some way getting out of this 1099 and finding a different way to be successful.
I think you're absolutely right. And I'm glad you went that way, because I think folks that are entrepreneurial spirited have always resisted the clock and the hourly paycheck. It's my first job was Baskin Robbins scooping ice cream, which I got fired from. I was the last of my friends to get fired. It's the only job I've ever been fired from.
But too many free samples.
Yeah. Oh man, I girthed up here, but my forearm was huge from scooping. But I would come home with ice cream in my hair. My buddies, we all worked there together, which is terrible for anybody that owns a business. Don't hire a bunch of 9th grade boys to do anything. Don't get them together, because we would eat ice cream and we'd have food fights back there. But I turned the air conditioner down. We weren't supposed to turn the air conditioner down below 70 degrees, and I turned it down to 55 on a July night or August night. And I had to lock up. And I realized when I got home that I'd left the air conditioner on, which was a fireable offense. And the way that we would lock up, you remember like this was in a strip mall, and the glass door that had the little mail chute, that would open up. Remember those little, and we would drop the key inside that, and then the opener would find the key. Well, we didn't like the opener. So we would take that key and we kind of set up like a football, and we'd bing, we'd kick that as far as we could, try and get it over into a sink or something. Just happened to have dropped it in there. I went to the Albertsons. My sister drove me at like 11:30 at night to the Albertsons, and I hate to admit this, I stole a tube of super glue, and I had a coat hanger, and I used the coat hanger to grab that key with a little dollop of super glue, pulled that back up, opened up, and turned down the air conditioner. Told my boss the next day what I'd done, thinking that he was going to, say, good job. I even went back to the grocery store, paid for the super glue, but he goes, well, great job. I appreciate your work ethic. You're fired. And okay. So the lesson was, of course, even if you do the wrong thing, if you're accountable and you do the right thing, it doesn't always pay off. So but using those lessons early on of watching a clock, man, it drove me crazy, and certainly did not want to do that for the rest of my life either. So there's a couple things, I want to kind of get into something a little serious with you. Recently I lost my father, and then followed up with a lovely case of COVID. And about that time, I remember seeing a post you made on Facebook that really got my attention. And I think it was just because it was so heartfelt. You basically said, listen to this now. And it was about life insurance. And that's always not the most exciting topic, but at this point, just even considering Dave Jinks and some of the things, it's on people's mind. If you could just give us a little bit of where we're at on that, and kind of your perspective and the importance of that, I'd appreciate it, because I was really moved by what you said.
This podcast going until 5 o'clock. Is that right?
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna try to do this quick and short, because when I start talking about life insurance, I could talk about it for a long time. To me, it's the most important insurance that my office sells. Any insurance company that sells, and it's kind of like on all my life insurance videos, I always say is please talk to somebody. Even if you don't talk to me, talk to somebody. And everybody needs to talk to somebody about life insurance. And I know we're probably losing viewers they're talking about life insurance. No, just listen for a few moments. So anybody who has children, which we've all got children on this podcast, many of the people that are watching us have children. They have families, they have people that they love. And what people don't understand, and people kind of do understand if they've seen it or gone through it, is that when somebody is lost, especially if they're lost at a young age, there is a huge void that is put in that family's life. Especially if you start talking about a breadwinner for that family that no longer has income. You talk about a parent who takes care of children I have a soon to be 6-year-old. So Bryn's going to be 6 tomorrow. And then I have a 4-year-old. And, my wife, thank goodness, she is able to take care of them after school. We don't have to pay for after school care. But if something were to happen to her, I would have to pay somebody to take care of my kids, because although I am an entrepreneur, I work. I mean, today, Lance and Russ would be there if he was not vacationing, but we've got after work events that happen, and it's going to get me home at 8 o'clock tonight. So when it comes to life insurance, you're not just trying to pay off bills. You're trying to keep your family set in a lifestyle that they're accustomed to, so that if something does happen, they don't have to sell the family home, downsize, move school districts, move in with family, move in with parents, whatever it may be. There's just so many things that you can plan for $20 a month, for a couple cups of Starbucks, or if you really want to do it, just, knock out a $50 meal for the month, and you can pay for quite a bit of life insurance. It is so easy to do. And the last couple of months, Lance, condolences to you and your family. I know y'all have a lot that y'all are going through. And there's not trying to downsize that, but there's an age difference when you lose a loved one. And I saw 3 people last month luckily they're not direct friends or family of mine, but they are directly related to a one-off person of me that I truly love. And they've all lost somebody. One of them was due to COVID. One was an accident. One was another sickness. But they're all under 40 years old. And one of them had a 9-month-old baby, recently married, and unfortunately did not have life insurance. So now there's a lot of things that are going to happen with that family that they're going to have to go through. And I'm not trying to bring this down. I don't want to. But people need to understand that protecting your family, man, woman, whatever it is, that's your job. And not only physically from sickness, but financially, down the road, you got to look at that. Do y'all have any direct questions for me? Because I could sit here and just talk about this and ramble and try to beat the dead horse of you need life insurance.
Russ, you got anything?
No, but he's just proven my point of why I introduce him to people. Yeah. I think if the audience there were watching the camera, look at his eyes and listen to his voice. He's sincere with what he's saying. He's not selling a product. He cared about the person. And these are strange times we're in. We've all lost people. We began this podcast talking about someone that we all respect from the real estate world that passed this morning. So applause, Duran. You stepped up and said what I think many don't even want to think about a few weeks ago when you did that video. So thank you. But thank you right now for proving a point that Lance and I talked about from the beginning. Man, you're good at what you do because you believe in your product and you really care for the person. So thank you. Yeah.
Well,
now, whole life or term. Let us know how we should go.
Yeah.
It's situational. It's always situational. So there's not one product that's going to work for every person. Everybody's going to be different. There's going to be people who want to use it as investments. There's going to be people who only want to protect it because they got other investments. There's just too many different variables that go with life insurance. Yeah, if everybody could do it correctly, you multiply your income times 10, you get enough life insurance for that, and you make it to where you stop paying at 60 years old and it lasts you the rest of your life. That's the optimal in every scenario, but we are all different in our lives and not everybody can do the same thing. So we try to fit it and tailor it to, what works for you and your family. And there are budgets out there. So we have to abide by budgets as well, but just to do something to make it easier on your family in the just in case scenario.
Well, I've dealt with you on homeowners insurance and automobile, and then the commercial. Life insurance is something that you don't really want to talk about, or we don't want to think about. And now that we're looking at people that are losing their parents, or they themselves have lost a spouse, but you mentioned you have a 6-year-old. I have a 1-year-old grandchild now, my first. What about children? Do you get life insurance for children? Is that even a thing?
It is a thing. This one makes it hard for me to talk about because when I start talking about it, I start thinking about my children, and both my children, they do have life insurance policies on them. I do recommend life insurance policies on children. And most people it's not a big deal if they pass away, they don't have income. It's not really necessarily about the income. To bury somebody is pretty expensive. And I think to bury a child is even more expensive, because lavish is going to be the word that I would use for a funeral of that type, which I pray to God that does not happen. I pray for children every day. But the burden it takes on the parent or the parents that they're going to be lost. So this is where I start to get teared up, and I don't like talking about this. So that's one of those things. But if you were to lose a child, do you want to go to work the next day, Russ, Lance?
No, God, no.
Yeah.
I mean, how many months may it take for you to actually be willing to go back to work?
Yeah.
So that's what part of that life insurance on children is for, is to alleviate your burden of, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you don't go to work that next day, and now your bills are getting behind, possibly getting evicted, because emotionally you're not ready to go do that. So that helps give you living expenses, burial expenses, things of that nature to help you to cope and move on with your life.
Wow.
Well, Lance, I definitely didn't see it going this way today.
No. This is what I love about you guys, is always the authenticity. When I'm with you guys, I always feel like I'm connected to something bigger, more meaningful. And I think that is what makes you guys so successful with what you do, because you are authentic. Your business is really an expression of your heart and soul. And that's why people are drawn to you and do business with you. It's not because of the products, because of you guys. I want to talk a little bit about just some of the things that make you you. What is something that you do every day? What's something that you wake up and do every day, besides the obvious? I'm not going to get into the biological kind of things, but something that you do for yourself. Let's just say to manage stress. What's something that you do to manage stress?
Mine is my alone time in the morning, that I wake up before everybody else in my household does, because I have somebody else I like to speak to in the morning, and then read what he's written down for us all to abide by. That, and I like to make my coffee and kind of sit by myself. And we have a new dog that likes to come in there and poke me with his nose while I do that as well. So it's kind of like my morning routine. Go in there, just try to get to know me, get to know him, and try to get my meditation, my life, not necessarily my life, I guess my life at all times, but mostly my morning ready to go before the kids start waking up at 7 and getting ready to go.
Russ, how about you, buddy?
Well, I'm old school, but I try to kick it up a notch a little bit. But I still send texts that are complete sentences with punctuation. So I begin my day much like Duran does. You have that quiet time, and then you try to, in your head, even if you're sitting at a screen, go, okay, what is my day going to entail? And try to get that schedule in your head before you put it on paper. But I think each one of you, or both of you here, you've experienced text messages from me sometimes randomly. I try to think through who needs to hear something positive today, or who needs to hear that someone thought about them today, or maybe there was somebody involved in a business transaction that wasn't really going well. So let me just send them, okay, here goes. I don't have a filter. So Lance and Duran already know that. I'd either send them an emoji with a finger up, usually one way to Jesus. I know that's what you think it is, but it may not be that close. Peace sign, sunshades on. I just try to end my quiet time about me on what can I do for someone else. And then I start my day. So I'll send a couple of text messages or emails to somebody who just needs to know that somebody thought about them as the day began. And then I'll kick it into high gear with coffee, lots of coffee.
Lots of coffee.
Yeah.
Love my coffee in the morning.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's terrible that we're so addicted to our caffeine. So Russ, when I think about you, of course, you have a rich background on so many levels. I'd love to get just a couple highlights of some of the things you've done. You've got this great radio voice and face for TV and, everything else. But what I love about you is it doesn't come across. I know that you could sell anything, but you really do tap into people's visions of who they are and what they want and their dreams. And I know that just even personally, just with some of the discussions you had recently about a property out in Mineola. But go back, just a quick highlight of some of your career and how that's made you who you are today.
One of my older clients is in his 90s right now, and he laughingly says, I'm one of the few remaining Renaissance men that exist on the planet, because that looks fun. I'll do that for a while. Oh, I can do that. So we go over and do that a while. Yeah, the radio thing is funny. Yeah, I have a face for radio. You said that wrong, Lance. Definitely
you got a fine face. I was going to say that.
I have the face for radio. Funny thing is, back in the Tyler days, a lot of people don't remember when Robin Hood Bryan was the big name in radio TV jingles. And he had just come up with, I believe it was Budweiser, but I knew he had Dairy Queen. And he was from Tyler, Texas. And I had just finished touring with a performing group and gotten back from Europe and was starting at Tyler Junior College. And I saw this special. Remember, PM Magazine was big on TV every night at 6 o'clock on ABC. And I saw this special about this guy in Tyler, Robin Hood Bryan. And I went, he needs to meet me. So I opened the white pages to Tyler. I found his home address. I went to his house, knocked on his door, and I said, you need to hear me. And the next day I had a radio commercial at 17, 18 years old. So with that spirit, that's how I've kind of lived my life. I've, marketed music, print, and everything else. I've worked for an airline. I've been a curriculum writer. I've bought and sold real estate. I've remodeled real estate. I was doing something back in the 80s and early 90s where I would go into homes and businesses and take all of their belongings, put it in one room and say, I have no emotional attachments to any of this. Let me redesign your offices or your homes. And it was way before HGTV on Flip and Redesign, and did quite well doing that. Got bored, moved on to the next thing. But it always kind of came back to, you have to have a home and a place to lay your head. So real estate always kind of became the home base to go back to. So, and then here we are.
Yeah, but you're still using all those skills that you developed, like just within Keller Williams. You're very influential in your office right now. I mean, I think there are. Are you still doing some training there, leading some training programs?
Yeah, I hated to go into that promotion, but I'll give a cheap plug here. I love our office because our office is all about, we do have a community that is unusual for most real estate offices, and our culture is so important. So with that culture, it begins day one. And if you know anything about the Keller Williams structure, we begin with boot camp, and we grow and we grow and we grow. Texas Real Estate Commission came up with the rule a couple of years ago that there needs to be a mentor program for these new agents coming on. And our office took it to the next level. And we have what's called Kickstart University. And we have a dean, and we have established realtors like myself, though, that really like teaching and helping others more than just making the sale. So I'm one of the administrators. We have a dean, and as an administrator, we work on what can we do to help these people go. But then I always have to have at least one or two proteges on my own that I can take under wings and train. Our mentor program, I think, is just notches above everyone else's. And it's so great to take someone who's like myself, 40s. I'm doing a life change. How am I going to do this? Let me take you and I'll teach you. 20s, just got my bachelor's. I don't know what to do. You have a sphere. Let's build a business. So, I love that part of doing that as well as still maintaining my own business.
Right on. And I know you have done a lot of things with your business. You guys are growing. You just added a new staff member, didn't you?
I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but the most recent one that also helps me raise children. Yes, she is coming on board. She is fully licensed now, and we just got her approval papers through Farmers yesterday. So she is my new person coming in the office, and it's going to be starting to work with us. So This will be a new challenge to not only the business, but a marriage as well. I imagine I've never worked with her before. So
Yay.
we built
A
a
lot
couple
of
houses
togetherness,
and
brother.
tried a couple houses before, and that that tested some marriage strengths right there. So we'll see how this goes.
Yeah. I love it. I work a lot with my wife. She does the books for Inspect 360 and for, of course, she goes to a lot of our events. When we were both working for American Airlines, we were both flight attendants. We spent a lot of time together, but there were definitely moments where we decided we needed our time apart. We would get to a layover and we would have, oftentimes we'd get just one hotel room and we'd share that room. But there were other times where we just decided, you know what, I'm just going to go to my room tonight, just have a little me time. I really enjoyed this 3-day trip with you, but I need to spend some time alone. But
unwind a bit.
Yeah, you find that balance, and particularly with kids, but it does certainly add to the richness of what you're doing, and particularly when your family is so involved in your business as entrepreneurs. Nice to kind of have that person who understands what you're doing every day. So congratulations. And I know, of course, I'll see her probably. You guys have a pretty regular event, a mixer every month. You want to tell our folks about that?
Yeah, we do. We have a few other partners that we work with, and we do a first Thursday happy hour, and it is usually on the patio. And man, this time of year is the best time to show up to this event, because as we know, it's all getting cooler outside. We're out there, so we got the tree lights on, so it makes a really great ambiance out there. But we do it at the Londoner here in Colleyville, right off 121 in Glade, and it is from 5:30 to 7:30, first Thursday every month that we do that, and it is for realtors and people who work with realtors to come in and just hang out, network. There's no real rules to it. Come in, have a couple drinks. Their food is wonderful. I love First Thursday because I get to eat all the stuff that I'm not supposed to eat, and I really enjoy the Londoners' kind of a take on that English bar food. So
yeah, Scotch eggs are fantastic.
Scotch eggs. Oh man, if there's no Scotch eggs, I'll get my own order.
Yeah, I love it right now. I'm my wife and I are in kind of a Ted Lasso, what do you call it? A binge watching kind of a.
Got to bring that in my life.
I just love the positivity and the enthusiasm. And of course, I spend a lot of time in London. And so the Londoner, I'm always big a fan of. And Barry, the owner, is just a great guy. And Julia, who owns the building, just, fantastic people in our community. So I just love getting to go to the Londoner and kind of feel like I'm a little bit part of a Ted Lasso moment because there's a great group of characters that show up at that event. But also they're just, I think because of you and your business and the people you partner with, you're attracting good people. So it's just a lively networking event. So for those of you that are listening, certainly encourage you. It's the first Thursday, is that right, of every month?
First Thursday of every month, 5:30, 7:30 at the Londoner.
Yeah.
With Juniper Title as one of the sponsors, K&M Services, and then Mike Pertona Lending.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, speaking of events, we have a big Real Producer partner event tonight. As I mentioned earlier, Real Producer, really, our partners are the backbone. They're the ones that make this whole community thrive. What I love about Real Producer, and for those that don't know, the agents that are featured in Real Producer are featured because of their production. It's just based on their MLS production. It's not a pay-to-play type of a magazine or anything like that. But there's a cost to running a magazine, and that's all provided for by our advertising partners. So really, if it wasn't for them, there would be no Real Producer community. And so tonight we get to celebrate all of our partners getting together. It's going to be at the Sky House in Frisco. So for those of you that are listening that are partners, we really, really hope to see you there. Durin, I believe you're going to be there tonight, correct?
I will be.
Yep. And this is just an opportunity for us to get together. And I love the fact that this community of our partners is just that. Even though we may be competitors, there's going to be other insurance companies, there's going to be title companies, lenders, inspectors. But when you're in this community, it's blue ocean. There's enough beautiful relationships to be had, and we're stronger together, and it becomes kind of a mastermind. So I'm really looking forward to that tonight. So for those of you watching, if you haven't RSVP'd, please do so we can make sure we have enough snacks and goodies. I don't think we'll have Scotch eggs, but it'll be a good time. I know.
It'll be a deal breaker, Lance.
I know. We'll figure out something. You can bring them if you want to. You want to
just pick up to go order?
Buy the Londoners. So, hey, guys, this has been such a blast. I want to bring Lyndon on. He's in the background. We've got about 10 minutes left, and he always has some great probing questions. Lyndon, are you there, brother?
I'm here. Like the Wizard of Oz. I'm behind the screen, right? So,
Gotcha.
One of the things that Duran was talking about, and I have observed, I'm not in the insurance business, never have been. It may be way too difficult and over my head. But when you talk about, and I know it's just an emotional, even to consider, but children with life insurance, is it not advantageous, Duran, to help and start that policy when they're young, so that some policies are actually paid out when they get to a certain age, and so that now that burden is not necessarily on the child? Is that not something that can be done, and an opportunity there for parents to help their kids get ahead?
It definitely can, and that's the way I have mine set up. There's two different thoughts that go through my mind when we're doing that. And you can do it as early as, I believe it's 14 days with us. I think each insurance company could be different. But at 14 days, you can have a life insurance policy on a child. And the way I've got mine funded, each of them, by the time I think they're 35, they should be completely funded. But by the time they're 18 or 19, there's going to be enough cash that's inside that life insurance policy that they can actually make a loan against it, to where they could actually use it to either pay for some college, if they decide they want to go in the entrepreneur direction, and then like, hey, you know what, I need some startup capital for a business, they can actually take a loan against it as well. And so what it's doing is kind of building them a savings account that they can either utilize, or, hopefully everything goes well in my business, they don't have to worry about stuff like that, and daddy will be able to give them and help give them some loans, and they can just have that policy, to protect their family when they're older. So there's lots of different ways that you can actually go through and set that up to make it self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't realize is life insurance policies are protected. IRS can't touch it. Lawsuits can't touch it. So if you've got money pushed into a large life insurance policy, it's protected from anybody, from creditors ever getting to it.
That's awesome. And, just listening to you, you guys mentioned it. And of course, Lance, you and Jordan, Rachelle always bring on some of the finest people that, exist in the professional world. And, we all know that, everybody's out hustling to make a living. Everybody's, a lot of us would do it for free if we could. Unfortunately, our electric company won't allow that. The mortgage company doesn't allow that. But there's just, I don't know. I think when you sit down and you listen to certain people, and it's like Russ was saying, and Duran was saying, when it's coming from the heart, when there's a servant's mindset, you can see that over these, nothing against them, not criticizing. If you email anybody, email Lance. But these hustling salespeople that, that they can't wait to get to the next commission. And, no one should ever apologize for doing a great job and enjoying getting paid for doing that job. But it's refreshing when you can sit and just hear the authenticity and then sincerity of someone that has chosen a career so that they can actually help people and not just themselves. So, Russ, it's funny. During, I think you said this, or Lance, you said it about Russ. It's almost like I've known him. We've never met until today, but he's well known in many, many places and spaces. And so when I first saw him, I'm like, yeah, I know that guy, even though I don't. But it's been a pleasure to meet both of you. I hope to get to meet you again in person. And again, Lance, great show, great guest, and really appreciate Real Producers and all the people that I've got the greatest job in the world, guys.
Yeah, you do, man.
Every day, 2 to 3 times a day, I get to meet some of the greatest people in the professional world. And I mean, there's nothing. Doing this show, doing it the way that I have, it's changed my life because I get inspired every day. It's hard for me to have a bad day because of the people I get to see, listen to, and talk to.
Absolutely, man.
That's a great point.
Well, guys, I think that's a great way to wrap it up. You guys are the best of the best, and it has been my true pleasure. I know our audience has garnered some beautiful nuggets out of this, and just to hear your hearts and kind of the method behind the madness. You know, you guys make it look so easy, and I know you guys have families and your own stresses and your own, you know, things that you deal with, but you guys do it with such grace and poise and such authenticity. And I'm just so happy that we got to introduce you to even more people that you will be connecting with. And real quickly, how can they find you? Russ, if people want to connect with the connector, how do they do that?
Oh, man, I'm in the middle of social media hours every day. So you can always reach out that direction. Phone numbers on the screen. KW South Lake, man, reach out and I would love to talk to you. Coffee's always on, or I'll take you to coffee at Starbucks. I got gift cards. Call me.
Right on. And I think some of your information is scrolling right below there on the screen too.
It is.
Duran, besides, you know, what I love about Duran, besides just that he's a great guy, he's got one of those most memorable taglines and domain names. So if you're interested in insurance, insuring with Duran, right?
That's it. Insuring with Duran. Are you insuring with Duran? Would you like to be insuring with Duran? However you want to say it, however you want to do it.
Hashtag insuring with Duran.
I got to give credit. I have one of my buddies came up with that tagline. He actually lives here in Colleyville, and he's an entrepreneur as well. He works in the mortgage industry. And he's like, "Hey, I got a great tagline for you." And he came up with it and gave it to me. And I was like, "Dude, I'm going to roll with that." And he keeps asking for royalty checks, but I don't remember signing any contracts with him or anything. So, Scott, don't have to give it to you just yet.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I know you guys provide great services, but mostly and great products and all that. But you just are fantastic people, take care of people, and that's why you're here. And thanks for making a difference. Thanks for you guys for tuning in today. Again, every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Next week, I believe we're going to have Jordan and Rachelle and myself on, and that's always a lively conversation. But you can also watch this and listen to it on Spotify and iTunes. And until next time, guys, be good to each other and stay safe. And we'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.